Hello everyone, my name is Marissa Jernigan and I will be discussing shared governance with you all. Now, prior to researching this topic of shared governance, my previous idea of its meaning and purpose were quite vague and unclear. During my experience working in the hospital setting, the phrase shared governance had been heard, but only discussed as being a form of meeting. Similar to a staff meeting, I assumed shared governance was a type of gathering to discuss goals for the unit, issues, and other plans. From hearing other nurses speak of shared governance, it appeared to exclude management and focus more on the staff nurses and their concerns. So in order to further understand the true definition and purpose of shared governance, two sources were utilized. The first being an article entitled Exploring Shared Governance for an Academic Nursing Setting. Now, while the title specifies shared governance in academia, the authors also discussed the presence of shared governance in the work environment. Shared governance itself is defined in this text as being shared decision-making. The authors go on to describe shared governance as a model that encourages collaboration and empowerment of employees through direct communication and teamwork. Ultimately, shared governance fosters a more pleasant work environment, thus increasing patient satisfaction and retention of nursing staff. Now, this definition makes shared governance sound very appealing. However, to understand how such cooperation and better outcomes are achieved, I used another source. Now, this source is actually a chapter from a book titled Shared Governance, a practical approach to reshaping professional nursing practice, in case anyone's interested in reading it. The first chapter goes into detail about the concepts behind shared governance. Now, prior to my previous thoughts, this source described shared governance as more of a process, a way for the unit to run. The adoption of this model by an organization encourages open discussion, and for every team member to feel as though they have stake in the organization. This is achieved through decentralization of management. In other words, less emphasis is placed on the hierarchical structure, so supervisors, managers, and charge nurses, and the focus is then directed towards those directly involved with delivering services to clients. At this core being the floor nurses, those delivering a service or care to the client or patient. Every other role is responsible for supporting those individuals at the core, those providing the service. Thus, teamwork and collaboration extends from this core, with every member working towards the same goals: patient safety, satisfaction, and professional practice. And this ultimately builds strength within a unit, makes the team more effective, and allows for a more enjoyable work environment. To really talk about shared governance more, there are four key principles that everyone should be aware of. In shared governance, there's partnership, equity, accountability, and ownership. Now, as partners, everyone has a role. Everyone understands their expectations and they perform them accordingly. In discussing equity, it's important to understand that no role is more important or relevant than another. However, this does not imply that responsibility and authority is equal among all staff, as in a floor nurse is not going to have the same responsibility or authority as a manager or supervisor. Accountability is characteristic of dependable individuals, those willing to collaborate on and own up to any decisions made by the group. And finally, ownership is the commitment by the team members to not only recognize but accept that all staff members' individual performances are directly responsible for the organization's success. So, in comparing my previous assumption of shared governance to my newly found knowledge, shared governance is not exclusive to floor nurses. Shared governance originally arose in healthcare in the 1970s from the displeasure staff nurses had with their facilities of practice. However, while shared governance's core lies with the nurses providing direct service, all roles are necessary in ensuring that the goals are met. Patient safety, optimal outcomes, and a positive work environment is only possible with the support of every member, management especially. In researching how a typical shared governance meeting should progress, a common theme was noticed. Mainly floor nurses were in attendance in these meetings. However, nurse leaders, managers, etc. frequently met with the staff before, after, or even during the meetings to ensure their support was known, provide direction for the meeting, and answer any questions about the status of plans or other things that are going on. From what I currently understand, shared governance is present in my unit of practice. However, I'm certain I've heard other team members mention that management's not permitted in these meetings. This research has not only enlightened me on what shared governance truly stands for, but it's motivated me to address it in my own practice with my team. I work with some exceptional individuals, but with recent staff shortages, nurses have frequently been recruited. However, our stressful environment has made it difficult to retain these new hires. Perhaps there's education that can be done to allow for team members to not only be well informed about shared governance, but to encourage a more open and collaborative partnership with our management and ultimately allow for a work environment that's empowering, supportive, and pleases everyone. Thank you all.